Chicano ideas. How's it going, everybody? Culture is power, history is knowledge, creative mentality, the curious Chicano. But let me talk about, I never gave my thoughts on, the Olmecs and what is my opinion about who or what the Olmecs are, who they are. Do I take it to the heart when people say they're not Mexican, or who the original Olmecs are? They African American? And to me, from understanding, right, from even observing, watching the Mexica movement, asking a member, a high member in the Mexica movement before about who they think were really here, like, really, I did a video about this on what do you think Chicanos. If you go look at Chicanos, what do you think Chicanos, they're two video back to backs. I gave some opinion maybe about this. It's like, well, what do people believe? Like, what were you believing, that we were our own breed and race of people? Like, one, it's like this, like I talked about this. Okay, so when everything, if you believe in Pangea, right, and then everything broke apart, the land. So when land's broken apart, do you believe people were still on that piece of the continent when it broke apart and people were there? And then do you all believe while people were living there, people came across the Barren Sea on top of Russia and came down? And do you also believe that people were traveling around the world already, and then also came from around the world, and people blended and were living together already prior to Christopher Columbus landing here? And who and what were these people? People say, they're not African American. On that note, like, yes, they're not under that label, but were they overall black is the question. Probably, most likely, everybody was of darker flesh back then. We all know darker people were all around the planet. And so it's like, were they African American per se? Were they African? Like, I don't really know. It's all theory and observation. Like, so what do you believe? Do you believe it was empty and then what, the Mongols? Because when you look at, like, right, the Native Americans that are the red natives, they look Asian, and they were already here, and they were the ones who were supposedly came across the Barren Sea while there was already dark people here of what we would call black descent, so, and they mixed together, they bred and lived amongst each other, and that's why you also got these weird copper black people tribes, because to me it's like an assumption of they blended in and they started making this their own race of people, to put it. Like, Mexicans, to me, were a darker people. They were also a blend, in my assumption, of the darker black people and of the red Indians, that were already mixing with each other before who Christopher Columbus landed here and everyone was coming over here exploring. So what do I really believe? Who are they? I don't know. Were they black? To me, of dark? Yeah, like, were they black people with nappy hair is what Mexicans want to assume to know? I don't know, like, how their hair was. Do I believe darker people were here already? Yes. Do I believe that people came across the Barren Sea? Yes. And my assumption is they blended and created new breeds and races of people here by mixing with each other, the darker black and the red native, and creating, like, darker browns of hues of people. And then when the Spaniards came, they started blending with the people who were blended in with each other. And that's what the modern day Mexican is today. The modern day Mexican will not look like the Mexican of 1491, for sure. And it's about people mixing and changing the bloodline. And to me, it's not something that I really cry about, or who and what is. Because if you watch my What Do You Think Chicanos, and the other one's called Chicanos, What Do You Think? I talk about this in my DNA. Like, what do you believe in species of people? I talk about ethnicity. You know, do you believe in different species that were amongst the world? Dividends, Negroid, Caucasians, Caucasoids. Like, everyone's their own race amongst the species, or different species amongst the living creature of being a being, walking and breathing. Like, there's so much theory and open-mindedness to what you believe. To me, I don't like. That's what I don't get. Like, whether Immortal Technique believes that they're African American. It's not that they're African American. It's that Mexicans want to say no, they're not black with nappy hair. Uh, so what do you believe? What do you believe that they looked like? Like, they were all light, like the natives of the tribes who look more of the red Indian. Where we Do you believe that we look like the modern day Mexicans look like 500 years ago? And you go to the tribes and you see the people who were not mixed, and yeah, they're darker Mexicans. Because to me, it's like, well, not Mexicans were always seem to appear to be darker, mixing with the red native and the black of the indigenous people. Because prior to that, who was here first prior to Christopher Columbus? Was it the red native? Was it the black man of the black indigenous who was here? What, to me, it doesn't matter. That's my assumption. Yes, they came across the Bering Sea. There was a darker black person here, and that they mix and they made other tribes of hue, different browns of people prior to the Europeans coming here. So other than that, I don't take that too deep. I don't It's not something to really dwell and fight about who is who, what is what. It's just an understanding history of, yes, I understand that I am a breed, I am a blend of the people of this continent, of prior to Europeans being here, that somehow my bloodline will be crossed into ties of whoever was here prior to Europeans. So that's what matters to me. I'm a part of the culture of and the tribes of this whole continent. And yes, there was a darker black man of a person here, while the red native was here, like the Cherokee and the Choctaw, those style. And probably natives that were a hue of a brown like us were here also. And of course, while the Caucasian man came across and started mixing and changed the DNA and the look of who was who, to know where you're from. So other than that, it's nothing for me to be arguing and fighting about, oh, this is what he thinks. No one really proved anything. Even the Mexica movement, as much as I support them, they never really proved anything. They never went, toe to toes with, some of these brothers, some of these scholars that, are saying, who these Olmecs were African American. It's not even about them being African American using that label. Of course, they weren't African American because that label wasn't here. But were they black people with the nappy hair? Is what I'm pretty sure everyone's saying. Oh, that's who they were. Not they were dark people with straight hair, or what is it that the point of fighting about? And we know that we come from that background. We're a mixture amongst those people that were already here prior to being, colonized by the Europeans. Peace out.